Andy Reid and them right now, you know? Players calling plays for themselves. I told them they had media today. I'm like, yeah, you guys got to come explain your calls. Show Sam's like, no way.
I wanted to ask you guys, when you have converted fourth downs, you've been very successful subsequently.
Sure.
I think you scored on 7 out of 8 times.
Following the conversions.
Correct. So that's an element that doesn't get talked about after a game in which you don't convert too. So can you just maybe talk about all of that and what goes into some of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the big picture of those type of plays and the momentum of a conversion like that, I think that's one thing that we've tried to harp on in regards to consecutive first downs in drives, conversions in drives. Usually lead to scores. That's what we're trying to get. I think, you know, like I've said before, we're in the infant stages of putting the offense together, but the guys are starting to see, like, when you start to put together 2+ first downs or conversions in drives, how they lead to, at minimum, a field position change. And then if you're usually gaining upper hand in the momentum, then you can really sit on it and go. You can make some attacking scores, you get the defense back on the heels, and so that's all part of explaining kind of how the game works. And when you don't, obviously, the flip side of that is you can lose momentum, you can lose field position, and that's been a big thing, obviously, in the early stages of us getting to kind of know who we are on the road, what we're doing, who we're playing, cataloging what we can do in certain down and distances, and learning about it. Number one, it's my job to put us in a situation, me and Kenny's job to put us in a situation where we feel like, okay, when can we be really aggressive? When do we not have to be aggressive? And I think part of that's going to be me and him together, which is really good. But our guys understand that.
That was your first time calling a game with Jeff, and he's similar but also different to Sam.
Sure.
So what is how much goes into what you extract and learn from an experience like that?
Well, a lot. Obviously, when you're playing at any level with your backup for the first time, you're going to be conservative in regards to being able to let them manage the game, unless the backup is a seasoned veteran who's been in the system, who really knows what you're doing, and you're playing a guy who knows exactly what's going on. You've got no qualms. So I think there's a little bit of, there's a lot of onus that's got to go on me in regards to, I got to find a balance between being as aggressive as I normally am as a play caller and being conservative and protecting players or protecting the calls, because unless you're really good, it's hard to matriculate the ball just playing really conservative ball versus anybody, especially a good opponent. And so I think at the end of the day, if I look back on it, there's got to be a little more aggressiveness that I normally call with a guy, with Jeff in that regard. We talked about that a little bit, saying, I might have to pull the reins off a little bit and let you run and go and make some good decisions and throw the ball down the field and be as aggressive as I normally am as a play caller. And so you got to be, there's a balance there. And I think it's the first time me and him kind of been together in a game, trying to protect him in situations and make sure we're just being smart and do things that have keys to victory, but still have what we do, and that's play pretty aggressive, on first and second down.
How does your mindset as an offensive coordinator change during the bye week rather than a traditional game week when you're prepping for an opponent? Is it more focused on the small details, or how does that look?
Yeah, a little bit of both. It's kind of a mix. You kind of go back, and we've been fortunate. We had 2 byes in the season, so we've had kind of this first quarter, this first third, and then you got kind of this middle third here. And I think you spend what we do. I don't know, in my opinion, you take a little bit of a chunk of the week, and you make sure you put the onus really on staring at yourself and being able to self-scout, evaluate what you're doing, your injuries, your health. What do you need to do moving forward in the offense collectively? And then you kind of get a forecast of what you got coming up down the road. So right now we got a 5-week stretch with no break from here on out. So it's going to be Oklahoma State's really right in our scope, and that's the number one most important thing. We've evaluated kind of some things we've done and what we need to do with number one, the people we've got on the field, people we've got that are healthy, getting healthy, and then project that into next week. So I think you got to do a balance between yourself and your opponents in bye week, and that's kind of what we've done. If your bye week is right now in this part of the season, it's a get healthy deal. So your practice is cut, your health and reserves go back up, and try to get guys back in full strength, and then pedal down once you start getting closer and closer to game.
You don't have a lot of, or maybe even any design quarterback runs, so we haven't seen a lot of them with Sam, but then there were some with Jeff.
Yeah.
And so how much, when your style of offense isn't much of that generally, and then you're doing some of that with Jeff, how much of a change is that?
There's a little bit of that. I mean, I think you're trying to, just like anything else, you're trying to do something that maybe work to a strength or an advantage to give you either leverage or numbers or strength in your personnel. I'm not a huge running the quarterback all the time for the same reason that right now we don't have Sam because of a rib injury. I mean, I had that happen in a couple different instances going all in my whole career. I mean, we had one Herbert's sophomore year with him. He broke a collarbone on a quarterback keeper in low red, and is one example that like sticks out. Like, you know, was that have to calls? Was it, you know, Sam did his on kind of a scramble deal, which is kind of weird. But I just think you got to kind of protect your quarterback sometimes. If it's a design and there's an escort and it's a design play, perimeter, it's edge type of deals, then kind of we can be okay with that. But Jeff does give you advantage, bigger guy who is durable, who can do some of the stuff that we saw the other day, you know, that I think give you a hat advantage and give you some leverage runs that I think are harder on a defense. That he's a big body guy who can really run, you know, a little more durable at this point in his career and with his body. So if that's a thing that we believe can give you an advantage and we can still stay safe, then we're all for it.
To kind of piggyback off of that, what were your takeaways from the running game in terms of the Cincinnati matchup? Obviously, Scat getting in the end zone, but trying to mix in other players like the Carlos and Kyson and other things like that when it comes to like running offense. And
I thought we did some good things. There's still some things we got to clean up. Again, there's some spots there that, you know, can we do a little bit different this and that. But I thought for the most part, guys had a good feel for what we want to get done. We got off to a fast start, then we kind of pulled back a little bit, and I lost kind of the momentum of the game a little bit, and we had a turnover that kind of pulled us back. So, but as far as the designs and the run games and those guys being able to mix it up and put in Sip, put into Carlos, use some of Jeff, I think that's still, as we down the home stretch, is going to be something we're going to need to do.
To speak on that, that felt like after the beginning of the game was pretty good for you guys out of the gate, scoring on your first drive, getting an interception, and then afterward when Scat fumbled, it seemed like that was a real like flip of the switch, and then the team offensively. That's what it looked like from our perspective anyway, that it felt like there was a little bit of flip of the switch. So what for you then, what goes into making sure those momentum swings, especially on the road, don't happen when you guys have kind of like struggled a little bit more compared to
No, it's a great question. I don't think I think it's a big piece of the maturity of a football team. You know, I think when you get an older group that goes on the road and can take punches like that and don't have your crowd to back you up in certain instances and have a little more maturity each game, each week, each year with the group, I think you can be able to have a reservoir of a group that says, hey man, on to the next play, it's about us, we got our sideline, it's our 70 guys versus this, and we got to hang tough and we got to keep the momentum and the energy high. And that's something we're all working on right now, is how can we do a good job on the road of making sure our guys have the same energy we've got at home. And that's, again, I do believe it's a maturity thing. I think time on task with guys in those environments, in programs with coaches and systems helps. I think they can fall back to old instances and say, hey, this is how we did it there. But until you're together in those moments, I don't know if you've got the same bank as you may have. So that's why we're coaching, man. We got 5 weeks left. This is an awesome opportunity, and each week's an opportunity for us to look at some things like that and go, hey, we can't have that again. How do we work on that? And not just point it out, but to be able to put time on task and think about it. So
I asked Kenny about offensive scripting yesterday or Monday.
Scripting?
Yeah, just like what you're going to do at the outset of a game on the first series,
like openers. Opener script.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So do you like, you guys have scored every time other than the 2 interceptions on your first drive, and so I was just curious, like what goes into that, like the planning and how much you actually know what you might call situationally.
Yeah, I like openers. I'm a big opener script, having my whole career. We script openers and do a good job, I think, with our openers, getting those things matriculated down the field. And then as soon as you get through openers, you got to be able to go through your next plans. Usually you've even scripted for first third downs, first red zone plays. You got some ideas, first shot you like. I'm a believer in that because you get guys a chance to know the plays going in. And I think they get comfortable with, okay, here comes this, you know, and I think that can help a young group, you know, instead of just surprising guys with the first third down one or the first red zone play. They've got, hey, I know this is coming because we've talked about it. Once you get through that script, you've got to anticipate, okay, now what are the adjustments they'll make? So then that comes up, and then your complements to those plays come up, and then you go back and go, okay, let's stay with this. And so you kind of see that in the course of a game. I know for us is like, you know, where are the complements coming off the original openers? Okay, what are the answers to this? Where's the next little tidbit of openers going to come back up? And you kind of see us play in some plays, certain plays we may stay in certain drives. Like, I'm going to stay until they stop it, you know, and then, okay, what's coming off of it? So we're big on making sure that we've got the core answers, the core adjustments, and then the complements to each one. And you kind of see, you know, as we do a good job in opening drives, usually as we go on, guys get comfortable with the calls, and we just got to feel for what they're doing. And hopefully you're right. You know, not always right. Openers suck. Yeah. Oh, that sucked.
Part of why I asked that was because you had the 21 personnel look where Kyson had a long run on the first drive, but you didn't play a lot of 21.
We hadn't played. Yeah, we played a couple other plays in it. I think came back that run 2 or 3 times. Was successful, whether it were compliments off it or not. But that's the first time we've actually been in that personnel too, through 21. We've had split backs in 11, but we've never truly got 2 backs out there. And so we've done that because of personnel issues, albeit X was down last game, get creative. And so as those packages go in, you kind of go, all right, this is the 21 starter, and you kind of build off of those looks. So the reason you don't have a ton off is because you can't do everything off of it. You can't teach. It's just too hard. We're not in that point yet in the offense in the infant stages of 7 games into our structure of our offense and be able to go, hey, we can do everything in 21. So you start to learn, you add a little bit layers based on personnel, and hopefully you get a little bit better with each one and kind of go from there.
I talked to Jason Brown Jr. yesterday, and he talked about how each day is a new opportunity, especially for these young guys.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him in particular and all the young guys kind of taking advantage of the bye week?
Yeah, these are awesome opportunities for guys like Jason and for us as coaches to see those guys run around too. Jason's been awesome. I think he's a promising kid. We've evaluated a young guy that we've seen has talent and showed that in some camp flashes, but as soon as you get in the season, you don't see those guys as much. They're a scout team. So the 2 bye weeks are awesome for us to see guys run around, be live, and go. And Jason's a guy who's going to be awesome in our offense. He fits it well. Real durable, quick, hard to tackle, can run and catch, and his toughness and durability has been showed in each of these bye weeks when he goes against the defense. So I'm excited to heck with him.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.